if we can say that, as we inflated our Grinch. It's like a little plastic Grinch that stands about 6 or 7 feet tall, certainly taller than us. And we have it staring down at our neighbors off the back porch. So I've got my own Grinch, and if you saw that, well, then I'm sure that you probably ran to the shelf to get your own copy if you already have a copy of the How the Grinch Stole Christmas on DVD, assumedly that you have it on DVD. If not, well, then it's certainly something that you might enjoy throughout the year, not just during Christmas time. And in order to share some Christmas cheer, I thought I'd ask Santa to help me share this particular story, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Hopefully, by hearing it, we can quell the Grinches out there, and grow everybody's heart 3 sizes today. Not just geeks, anybody really. So I'm going to do my best here. This is me and Santa, or Santa and me, reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now I'm not going to sound like Boris Karloff, so don't get your hopes up. Oh, and by the way, some Grinch Christmas cartoon trivia. The voice, the singer in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the classic cartoon, the singer was actually the same voice of Tony the Tiger. Frosted Flakes commercials. It's the same voice. It's the same guy. Boris Karloff, of course, narrated, and the singer was also the voice for Tony the Tiger. Just FYI. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask me why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Well, whatever his reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas! It's practically here! Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming! For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, they'd rush for their toys. And then, oh the noise, 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 noise! That's the one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise! Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down for a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast! Feast, feast, feast! They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast! Which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing! And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it. Now? I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked with a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is reindeer, the Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, get out! And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a-snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed. and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue where the little Who's stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums,
checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. He stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who's pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, the Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. Oh, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And when the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, then he heard a small sound like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, the old Grinch was smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, it's my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light up on the side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear, to fix it up there. Then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou, who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log from their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. There on the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And then the one speck of food he left in the house was a crumb that it was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 dawn, and all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a-snoozed when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpit, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was grimaciously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's the noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. And so he paused. The Grinch put his hand over his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low, and then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and then he shook when he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any Christmas presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas. It's coming. It came. Somehow the other, it came just the same. And the Grinch with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he paused 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from the store. Maybe, perhaps, it means a little bit more. What happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed up with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys, the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef.